Now to Turkey, where German Chancellor Angela Merkel is visiting a refugee camp near the Syrian border. She's with Turkish Prime Minister and the European officials as they assess the new EU policy that's meant to stem the migrant flow into Europe. That policy, now just a month old, has Greece deporting unsuccessful asylum seekers back to Turkey. And of course, it has been drawing sharp criticism from human rights groups. For more now, Nick Paton Walsh joins us now from Gaziantep. Nick, the Chancellor and EU officials inspected the living conditions of the 5,000 migrants at that camp. What did they find? What did they see there?
Well, this is one of the better camps available to Syrian refugees here inside of Turkey. So no surprises there. They saw how things can be actually not bad at all for some Syrian refugees, obviously, who still want to go home. But it is for many of the 2.7 million here inside Turkey who don't have accommodation like that, who live in ad hoc accommodation around the country or in far worse conditions, who are more at risk. Angela Merkel here, obviously here to show concern for those human rights, for those living conditions, for the many refugees now who could potentially face resettlement from the EU, where they've made that perilous journey back to Turkey as part of that EU deal. There is an upper limit on the number that will be sent back from the EU of about 70,000 or so. That's pretty much a drop in the ocean, frankly, compared to the broader problem of the near million that are inside Europe. The 72,000 being the ones who are potentially part of that program will be resettled back into the European Union. Remember, there's a sort of switch here where people are repatriated from the EU back to Turkey, and in exchange some are sent back and found places to live inside the European Union. That's the basis of the scheme. But Angela Merkel, I think, more concerned about the optics here, to be seen that so much of this 6 billion euros that the EU's promised will actually be spent effectively here on the ground. That's, I'm sure, part of the visit as well. She's being shown decent facilities here, was involved in the cutting of the ribbon at a child care centre not far from here, which was opened by her and Turkish Prime Minister Ahmet Davutoglu just over an hour ago now. There's now a press conference underway, a reception later on. Part, I think, of her coming to see what is effectively the front line here of a country dealing with the refugee crisis that's been going on for years now, that's far in excess of the problems that Europe's facing. But obviously Angela Merkel, having first opened her arms as the key European leader, saying refugees come to Germany, and now facing such pushback because of the sheer volume that went there, I think perhaps trying to show at least that the living conditions of those who will be sent back here are of paramount concern to her, Lynda.
Right, so the German Chancellor is hoping to show that this deal is working. What is Turkey hoping to gain from this visit?
I think it's a degree of showing the proximity they can have with Germany here, that Angela Merkel is willing to come and see the kind of conditions laid out here, and that, of course, also hopefully get a glowing endorsement from the European Union that Turkey's doing all it can to look after those many refugees. But the scale of the problem Turkey's been facing over the past few years is way in excess of anything Europe's been facing here, and I think that is one of the key things that Ankara will be keen to show here to Angela Merkel and those European viewers who watch her visit, Lynda.